ready, Mark.
All right, let me have, okay.
Right. The right arrow is your advance, left arrow is back. So you're on it right now.
Is
You
there
want this?
What? Is, unless you want to wear one.
Okay, so last month I did a presentation on switching out a Model A head and putting the gasket or the head gasket and all that kind of stuff. One of the things I might have scared a few off on is the delicate head studs to replace. And I kind of cautioned some of you guys, it's like, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. But it's a good idea to replace them. So I felt bad about that, and I went back home and I said, you know, I got to do something about the studs to let you guys know. So this is what I did. Where do you aim this at?
You don't have to aim it. Right arrow.
It's not advancing.
Oh, come on.
Might have one of them.
Yeah, I got it, man. Like, well. Which one? Who's that?
So here's what I did. I have a scrap block. I have a scrap block that I took out of the scrap, and it truly is scrap because that's what I do. So that block came in on the left side, and it had some snapped off studs and it had some intact studs. And I said, okay, here's the contest. Let's go ahead and do it. So here's the before and here's the after. And I numbered each one of the studs and I did a couple different things. So we can go to the next slide, please. So if you look close, like number one here, you can see this guy right here is snapped below the surface. There's a couple more snapped below the surface, and then there's some intact.
By the way, Mark, your green button on top on that thing.
Oh, okay.
Laser point.
Okay, so you can see there's a snapped ones, snapped ones, snapped ones, intact, intact, snap. Next slide, if we may. So you have to have the right tools to go about the project. So my favorite is Croil, a penetrating oil. Each of us have their own favorites, but that's mine. What I used on this deal is some Croil. I use it liberally. Wire brush, a handle, a flat punch with a flat face, a small ball peen hammer, vice grips, stud puller tool. You can have a pipe wrench on the side. I use flat washers, hex nuts, a wrench for the hex nuts, and I use a torch that's an oxy-fuel torch. So it's either oxygen acetylene or oxygen propane, but it's like a cutting torch. I also used a MIG welder for the broken studs. It's a good idea to have a fire extinguisher nearby, proper safety equipment for yourself, eye protection, heavy gloves. If you're doing this in the car, Model A's, the fuel tank is nearby the engine and the carburetor is right there and the zeniths usually leak. So you might want to take some extra precautions like a flammable blanket or taking a blanket, soaking it in water and putting it over the top as a precaution. The next slide. This is the next thing that you all need is patience. And when you work on the studs, you don't hurry, or when you work on most Model A things, don't hurry. Have patience. Seek out somebody that might have done it before. Have the right tools. Don't use compromised tools. If things aren't going right, walk away from it and then come back to it with a better attitude. I've seen in many different things, people dig a hole, they get frustrated, and they use the wrong tools. This is not the time to do that. Next slide.
It doesn't come in a quart.
No, it comes in a gallon. Okay, so this is, I was working on one of the snap studs. This might be a little advanced, but the first thing I do is I heat it, and this is a video. Can you see the video bar on the bottom? And this is really important when you heat. And hit that, and I want you to watch this very carefully, how how I keep moving the torch and how I keep flicking it away to see what temperature I'm at. So here I am, and I'm getting there and I'm heating it, but the torch is always moving, and then pretty soon you'll see me flick it away to see how hot it is. I don't want it to get red hot. I just want to see it getting hot. So pretty soon you'll see the flip. Come on. Usually work faster. There we go. There was a flip. So I can see what's going on. And I keep it moving, I keep it moving, I keep it moving. And it's getting hot and it's getting close. And I keep it moving. And I should be pretty much kind of done here. Now what I like to do is I like to grab a candle, just a regular candle, and I like to put it right on top and let the paraffin go down. Then, so that's soaking in there and it's hot. Next slide, which is a video as well. I went and I heated it up again, or this is the same.
Sorry.
No, you want to go to the next slide.
Here is,
Okay, this next slide that's kind of what the stud looked like. This is a little out of order. But what I did is, this is a stud I was working on, and I took a Dremel tool and I just basically buffed this up and prepped for the weld. Next slide. So this is my second heat. And what you want to do, this was the first heat, and I ran to the side real quick after I put the candle in there and hit the video thing. And you walk over and you want to put some vibration into this. And it's not like you're going to kill it. You just want to tap on it kind of easy. I'm not hitting hard. You can see I'm really choked up on the hammer. And I'm not hitting it hard. And then I'm going to take the hammer, and on the exterior, I'm going to give it some more hits too. It's not hard. We want that heat and vibration. And now we're going to let it cool down. Next slide. Now, this is the second heating. I already have heated it up. You didn't need to see me heat it again, but I think this is a video. Is there a, yeah. Okay. So it's still steaming hot. I like to take a little Croil while it's still hot, hedge my bet with the lubricant and let her go. And I let her go down in there. And I'm saying something, probably talking to myself. I do that a lot. Then I grab an air hose, an air compressor hose, and I'm going to chill that stud with the cool air coming out of there. I think there might be another video in the next slide. I'm not sure. Well, believe me, I cooled it. So now what I did here, if you want to stop it for a second, what I did here is the stud was broken below the surface of the block. So I took a piece of copper and drilled a hole slightly smaller in diameter than the broken stud, and I put it on top so that I would have a guide to weld through and not going into threads, and build it up so that it's more flat, so you can speed it up again. So I'm just trying to flush it to the top. And it's gonna cool down, and I needed a little bit more. So now I'm throwing a bunch of heat down there. It's already been heated twice or whatever. And the next slide. Now, I've taken a common washer and I've centered it over the hole. This piece of steel is just my third hand holding it down. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a hex nut and I'm gonna put it on top of here, and then I'm gonna weld it hot. I'm gonna build that piece up. I switched welders at this point. I have the luxury of having two welders there, and I particularly wanted to use this small wire before to flush it out. And now I'm gonna go in there and weld it with something a little bit different, but go ahead, next slide. So you can, I welded this thing with a little heavier product. If you can see, it's just glowing. It's just glowing. So you can notice how much heat is there. So next slide. So this is a video, you can hit this, so I let it cool all the way down to stone cool. And I have a normal size wrench on here, and I'm not the strongest guy in the room. So just look at what I'm doing as far as choking up on the wrench, and that's how easy it moved off the get-go. So I rock it back and forth, and then I go find my favorite lubricating oil, like Royal, and I throw a little bit in there. And then I go back to it, and I move it back and forth, back and forth. And you see I'm way choked up on the wrench, so it's really not a lot of work. You could use an impact or something. I don't really like to do that. I like to feel where everything is. This will end in a minute. It's not the most exciting part. So I ended up on this project. I did 3 of them like that in a row, and it took me about, once I was set up, it took me about maybe 10 minutes per broken off one to get them out. So they're coming out, but what I wanted to show you is in the next slides coming up. No, you can let this one go because there's something to see, I'm sorry.
All right, sorry.
Okay,
Go back.
okay,
Somewhere.
yeah, just start in the middle someplace. So then the next ones I'm gonna go to, I'm gonna take an existing stud that's sticking out of the block, and I'm gonna show you, you know, what I did to do that, and that's a different heating process. And I think the heating process is the key here, and you kind of have to follow what I'm up to. And I'll show you, I fumbled this a few times. And it falls in, you know, can let it. And I brought the fasteners, but I want you to look at fasteners.
Is this where the patience comes in?
This is patience, and then I blow it out, and I have a real nice thing. And if you were to re-tap those threads, you don't use a common hardware store tap. I don't know people that are the machinists in the room. There's a finer grade tolerance tap that if you're gonna run a tap down there, you use them. Next slide. So this is one of the existing ones sticking out. It's real crusty around here, you can see. So I want you to notice how I'm aiming the torch in the first set of things. I also take and I tap it with a hammer, which you're not gonna see. And I go through some other, you know, things. I take a wire brush and I clean up around here. So this is a video if you want to hit I think it's a video. So this is, I'm just heating the stud. Notice the torch, I'm on the stud, I'm not way up at the top. I keep it moving and I go around. Always keep it moving. I don't want to get a big cherry red spot in one part. I want that thing to heat up evenly and kind of push any crud out. And then I want it to shrink so that I have some room for some type of penetrant or something to get in there. So I'm good there. I keep whipping the torch away. It's not going to get red cherry. It's just going to get a little red. I walked away from this. I tapped on it. You can go to the next slide. I tapped on it. So this is the second heating. I let it cool down the first time. Now I'm coming back to it. It's a video again if you hit that on the bottom. So watch where I'm heating now. Now I'm going to heat the block. That stud's cool. I'm going to go around the stud. And you can start to see the heat lines coming in on the block. And I'm going to keep it moving. I'm not going to pause in one spot. And I'm just keeping it moving. And you kind of see where the heat goes, and you can see a margin open up. If you look real careful when you're doing it, you can kind of see a margin happening in here. Well, then I go and I give it the candle. Then I go back with the flame in a minute so that it pulls it in a little bit. So it's a little capillary action, a little more heat pulling it. This is how I do it. I'm not saying it's the best way in the world, but you'll see what happens. Next slide. So this is a stud pulling tool. This is a little bit different one that Phil showed us. I have one like Phil's here too. Again, this is just probably like a 12-inch long ratchet. That's all it took. That's all it took. It's hot though. the block is hot, the stud is starting to get hot, and you wanna jump on the stud right away so the heat doesn't soak into the stud. So that comes out real quick, and we go next slide. And this is a video, again on the bottom. But look at the heat pattern, you can see where the heat went in here. Okay, and I have a heavy glove on because the stud started to get hot. And it comes right out. And that's that. You go to the next one. Next slide. This is just, I'm just showing you back what I did here, which is a little closer up, but I was just trying to build these broken ones up to the top. And I think you can click it, and I think that's the end. But what I'd like to tell you about is I have the studs over here and they're labeled. I have the 3 that I welded out, and I have the one, oh, there was one stud that you didn't see that I just took the tool to, the stud pulling tool, and I didn't go gorilla on it. I just pulled it and it came. The one that I had the heat that was existing hanging up, it wouldn't come out, and I didn't want to break it. So what I did again is I did through the heating process. But if you look at those studs, you can see how I heated them, and you can see on the bottom where they had rust or the rust popped off. The stud you'll just kind of see them. You'll see where the rust was. But that's what I would do to get them out. I would take my time. I think it's very doable. And here's the challenge. I still have that block. There's still 3 or 4 studs sticking out of it. There's 3 or 4 of them that are busted in there. If somebody wants to practice, they've got their car at home and they're reticent to do this, they don't know what it's gonna take, you can come and take that block and I can explain what to do, or you can try it yourself, but you can practice and you don't have to worry about it. And then you can go to your own car. So I have that block. If anybody wants it, they can take it. It's a junk block. I don't care 2 cents about it. Any questions? Mr. Phil?
Yeah, that first stud, that one was broke off. You built it up first to get
It had a break where it had like a trough in it. It broke funny, it had a trough. And I wanted just to get it level first. So I used a real spine wire to get in there.
Yep.
And then I got it level, and then I used a welding wire that we call dual shield. It's most MIG wire that you guys use for like welding body panels and stuff like that. It's okay, but it doesn't really have that much elasticity, and it doesn't have that much stick to it.
Yep.
This dual shield is like a 70-18 composition type welding rod. It's got more tensile strength. It's got some elasticity.
At any rate, you got it up to the surface, and you laid the washer on there, and then you welded a nut on top of that.
No, I put the nut right on top of the washer, just lined
Yes.
everything up, and went straight down and just
Yep.
came right up.
All right, got it.
So if anybody's wanting to do this, it's very doable.
So the washer supported your wrench when you put it on there is kind of
The washer kind of forms the first initial roundness to get up into the hex bolt.
Right.
And go ahead, Gene.
That was in maintenance years, beeswax, penetrates even better than just paraffin. And it smells really good.
Yeah, I don't, everybody's got their own. Oh, and it doesn't mean that this is only gonna work once. So let's say that you went to heat it and you put your wrench on there and it didn't seem like it wanted to go, I would do it again. I mean, I wouldn't just say it's a one and done. Yeah, Phil?
I've used wax too, and I use the tanning wax you can get in the hardware store or the grocery store because it's handy and it's easy to get.
Yep.
But beeswax might be better yet.
Yep. So it's very doable, and if you're putting on a new head, like a 5.5 head or a 6.2 head or something, they recommend that you put new head studs on that are of a higher grade, like they're like a grade 8 bolt or something. And if you're gonna go through all that work, you might as well do it well. But what I would say, if you did this project and you got one that just didn't come, but you got the majority of the new studs in there, I'd still consider it a win, and I'd put that head on. So that's my 2 cents on this deal. Anybody's got any other questions? Yeah, Phil?
when you get the studs out, in order to clean the threads, what I've used is a thread, chaser. It doesn't cut any metal, it just
Yeah.
cleans the rust and the crap out of the threads that are there.
Yeah.
They're thread chasers, and they got slots on them, pulls all the crap out.
Yeah, but in the same token too, for many of our model A things, whether it's in the rear end or wherever, they used a much more precise engineered tap
Yep.
with little tolerance, or with great tolerance, I should say, for the thread, which is not what you're buying in most places. The fellow was in the machine tool business, Mike, he would tell you to buy, there's a terminology, how they grade taps.
3, 4, 5.
Yeah, you could go to like McMaster Car and you'd say, okay, I want that tap with this engineering spec, and it would be the right one.
Each is above pitch diameter and the L's are less than. So there are underside.
Okay, yeah.
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 Use that in the.
Yeah, that's why I use the chasers, because it won't cut any of the metal off, it'll just clean the crap out of the threads that are there.
Sure. So that's it. I hope you liked it. If you have any other questions, I have to leave a little early now. I got some personal stuff going on at home. It's taking my time. But like I say, if anybody wants to block to try it, you're welcome. Yeah, I just won't bring it here.
Thank you, Mark. As always, good presentation. Getting pretty good at videos, pictures, and